For me, when I received the news, I was at home. My wife had got an SMS from someone who was concerned because the person knows that we live in Magdeburg, around the area. So she received a text, "Are you guys safe?" And apparently, I remember the previous day we had planned to go to the same spot to go and have time with the family. So when that one occurred, it really shocked us.
This is someone who has come into the country for more than 20 years. He's a highly skilled person, well educated, lived in the society by standards of integration, had well integrated, speaks the language fluently, and all that.
Hello, dear friends. You're welcome once more to the podcast. This is a special holiday. Well, would I say holiday special podcast because we are in the holiday season and there's a matter that we need to discuss. But first of all, I have a couple of greetings to make. I have you all know the face, Pastor Robinson. He's here with me today, but we have a special guest. We don't have time today to talk about the relationship with this special guest. His name is Dr. Kwaku. He focuses on migrants, immigration, as well as those in diaspora. So those who return home of a specialist in this area. But Pastor Robinson, you've also been working with immigrants here in Germany as refugees, right? As a social worker. I myself, briefly as well as a social worker. And we'll be talking about, say, the terror attack in Magdeburg. But before that, Merry Christmas, gentlemen, and welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, how did you spend your Christmas, dear friends?
Christmas isn't Christmas without family.
Exactly.
So we spent some time with family, and we are still wrapping up. No, we have not finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same at my end as well. It's a time for family, spend some time, quality time with family. Also had some colleagues and friends come by like today to spend the time. Yesterday was with family, and so it's been a good time so far.
Yeah. For me, I spent also my Christmas with my family. I actually went out today to the Christmas market in Berlin, and just more on that later on. You know, it's supposed to be a happy season, but we all got the news on the 20th. Was it the 20th, right? The 20th of the 20th of Friday of December. Just uh, I think around 7, there was this terror attack. A man from Saudi Arabia who has been working as a doctor in Magdeburg there, or in Bernburg, drove through the Christmas market. And what we have at the moment is that he has 7 persons are already dead, and there are 72 persons who are seriously injured. What a sad event. I actually myself was shocked. How did you receive this message? Any of you can just talk. What were your first reaction? Any of you can.
For me, when I received the news, I was at home. My wife had got an SMS from someone who was concerned because the person knows that we live in Magdeburg, around the area. So she received a text, "Are you guys safe?" And apparently, I remember the previous day we had planned to go to the same spot um, to go and have time with the family. So when that one occurred, it really shocked us. So we started having starting to find out what really happened in the news. I was at church, so I had to go to church. By the time I came back, my wife had some more information. but it was not nice. It really shocked us. It's not the best of news at this time.
Mm.
Thank you, Pastor Chigumezi. Before I start, let me greet your listeners. Since it's my first time being here on your show, I am the head of the Institute for Evaluation, an independent institute for evaluation called the Freelancer Institute for Evaluation. Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned on Friday, I think it was in the evening. It was there when my wife also informed me about this. I mean, in fact, the moment I heard this, first thought was, oh God, don't let it be a foreigner.
Mm.
And I know why it came to that. And also because this part of Germany where we live, we know what it means and the kind of perception towards foreigners.
Mm.
So for your viewers who, and we live very close to Magdeburg, we live in the eastern part of Germany. And so when the news came, I was shocked. I was shocked and confused and angry at the same time. Angry because I couldn't understand why, but also it was like, okay, now it seems very closer than before. So before you hear in other places what had happened, but this time just some few kilometers away. And just to imagine that exactly the same time a week ago, we were at the same spot. I was there with my family and my wife and kids. Yeah. And the thought was like it could have been us there as well. And that was even much more scarier. So that was the first reaction. But of course the other reaction was about how are we gonna deal with what has happened?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I think we'll talk more about that.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that. I just wanted to kind of draw this out a bit. So both of you actually visited the spot, or well, Pastor Robinson, Pastor Dr. Kwaku, you were there the week before. Pastor Robinson, you planned to go. Okay. I mean, we know the spot anyways. Christmas market there. Myself, I've been also to Christmas markets. Do you think that this creates a kind of fear as well for parents or even fathers, mothers, to say, well, does it even worth it, to take the kids to such places?
I think for those who have been to Christmas markets, they can tell you that it's a nice place for the family. When we were there last year, the same place, we promised to come back because we take photos as remembrance and you go with the kids and you move just with the pace. There are many people, you stop there, eat something, you see some delicacies you've never seen, you try them out, you see people in the spirit of, they're happy. That there is a lot of Freud. People don't go there. You not find gloomy people there. My experience is that people have a relaxing mood there, and it is an atmosphere that is filled with the family concept. So you'll find children, even if it is at around 7 or 8, you'll see children moving around, and I think it has to instill fear, especially for the parents, when you see that if you have several children, you cannot have control in if anything like that happens. When I looked at the video, it is something that I wouldn't watch twice again. I watched once and I didn't want to watch it again. What really happened? I think it instilled also automatically some fear in me. I couldn't watch repetitively what happened because it just brings some shiver in me because it's not something that should have happened, especially for us who have family. You can imagine. And then I saw on the internet that one of the victims was a 9-year-old boy.
Yeah.
That really, I pictured my son. He's of the same age. It really hammered home that yeah, some parents are really mourning. They have lost their loved ones. There are some who are really struggling with their. If you put yourself in that shoe, it's something that really spreads some fear. You wouldn't be comfortable to go there. And then the next day I told some friend, I really want to go to Magdeburg. And he said, you are going the same place? I said, yeah, it's not that easy to
Mm.
make right now those decisions. Should I go? Should I not go?
Mm.
So automatically it spreads some fear. But as we'll talk later, I
Mm.
hope there are some strategies that can help not only us but many people to overcome it.
Yeah, I think yeah. I mean, If you know Christmas markets, as we all know, it's a space for everyone. Yeah. So we know that in the German society, there are so many things that happen. Yeah. But there are also several spaces. When I say spaces, I mean public spaces and events that is for everyone.
Yeah.
Like if you see a flow market, for example, it's for everyone. The middle class, upper class, lower class, everybody is welcome there. If you find it's not like opera or concert or this that attracts only certain group of people. Even for musicals, attract only a type of people who like a particular music or a religious activity where people choose to go based on their faith and everything. This is one of the many occasions where it is open to every class of the society. So you find different people there.
Mm.
The rich, the poor, the lonely, the happy, everybody comes to this scene. That's also what makes Christmas markets very special as well. And me, for example, one of my main attraction for going to a Christmas market every year, actually, since I've been in Magdeburg most times, I'm there every year is because I'm always looking forward to eat crepes. Yeah, you know crepes. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's not an everyday thing. Yeah, I wait for a whole year to go to a Christmas market with the environment, joyous environment, to eat that. And my children knows this, and they also get to ride once a year some toy and then these things that go around and all.
Mm.
So it's that joy, that family time together, where how children look forward to as well. But of course, what happened is something that really makes everyone rethink about such spaces. And the fear that you talked about, yeah, is very, very real. I mean, it's not even only about the Christmas market, but about other open events such as that happens throughout the year and all that. And now you think about which space is safe, yeah, for my children and for others as well. And I mean, for some of us who work with students, I mean, who work in a university and teach students as well, it's not only your immediate children, that your biological children, that you get concerned about. It's also about your students. We have students that live in Magdeburg. Actually, there was one student who was very close to where the whole thing happened at the time that it happened. And students are even older. You can't control where they go and everything. And
Mm.
so you always constantly feel like it's scary
Mm.
because you don't know where they will be at what point and all that. So yes, the fear is real, and there's another dimension to it as we go forward that I think we will have to look at that as well.
Thank
Something
you.
little, a footnote.
Yeah.
Um, I like personally when I go with the family, I like what takes me there on a personal level is that I target to greet as many people as possible.
Oh, wow.
Kweku is good that it is about food, but me, it is that greeting. That is the most time I greet
Yeah.
people and they are happy to receive my greetings.
Yes.
Yeah, no, no, and I can understand that because, of course, in Germany, you don't just greet everyone on the street. And,
No.
I mean, if you greet some people may respond, but East Germany is a bit different, right?
Mm,
Um, and that makes sense. Of course, the crepes make sense as well. I just wanted to come back to the statement both of you made. You see, Christmas market is a unifying factor, right? And this is a place where all classes would say come together, whether they are looking to beg some money, to give some money, to drink something, to drive the carousel, to go on the merry-go-round. It does not matter. Basically, almost at least for the time being, maybe it's 10 days that the Christmas market may be running, or 12 days or 14 days. Almost everyone in the city would go there, and even tourists, right? But with the fear, I'm kind of concerned because this whole thing now, the whole narrative is inundated with, okay, is Christmas markets secured? I was in Alexanderplatz today, and there's a Christmas market, and of course, Berlin, everything is huge, right? So there's this very vast Christmas market, and I was just, I just wanted to look at the lights with the kids, but I was looking around and I was like, man, there are so many security loopholes here, right? Even though there are police vans with blue lights, all around, but there were so many loopholes. And I'm kind of concerned in this day and age where things are going on. Do we need to start questioning our security in large spaces? Actually, this whole narrative comes from 2016. So when it happened in 2016 in Berlin, I was in Berlin when it happened. I was like, okay, no, I had just flown out from Berlin when it happened. Sorry. And I was like, really? I was just here a few hours ago. And this same thing happened. And then Magdeburg, of course, lived close to Magdeburg for some years. So I'm just questioning this narrative of are things really secured, or are the authorities taking security, very important? What do you both think?
I personally feel that the times I've gone to this Christmas market, maybe because I live in the village, uh, I assume that the part of security and Sicherheit is already taken care of.
Mm,
Um, when I go, I find some stones put in avenues where cars are not allowed even to pass. So there are these big blocks that are put there that no car can pass through. And I would want to imagine that even in Magdeburg there was security.
mm-hmm,
But I think it took them by surprise. It's not something that they never anticipated. Yeah, it's something that people maybe they didn't calculate that it would happen that way. Maybe it is a first in that market. Um, I would want to imagine that nobody went there. If they knew that the place was insecure, nobody would have gone there.
mm,
So for the fact that people were there, they felt that security, that sense of security, that everything was catered for. They could see the police; they're always there. Yeah, but this event just took them by surprise. That's why now we start questioning about security, and maybe it's a wake-up call that maybe more security should be done, and maybe security forces would be juggling in their mind. How can we anticipatory security marking
mm,
do? How can we do? How can we provide security in anticipation of something they don't foresee?
mm.
Yeah. It's a first, I think, in Magdeburg, so that's why maybe it caught them by surprise. But I think there was some level of security, and you know, it's not a busy place like in Berlin. I think Berlin there's more security. I would want to imagine that in other spaces. But I think they tried, but it caught them by surprise. That's how I look at it.
No, no, you're right, because the man ran through the ramps, right? There were some metal ramps that he ran through, in order to. So you're right that perhaps, not perhaps, that's not the right word to use. Surely there were some level of security. But Dr. Kweku, you wanted to add a point,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. So when we were there, the place, if I could describe it, yeah. So the place was, there's a main tram path, yeah, and just after the tram path, the market begins and goes straight facing the rat house. And then you can come from the other center, which is the main road, which car, yeah. And then there's a tram in between the main road. So that side also has an entry there. And then that entry, there were these concrete blocks that were there, like Lego blocks that they can put into. So for me, when I went there with my family, that is how we entered from there. But on the other side, where the tram streets, and after the
Mm,
tram streets, you just go in there.
mm,
That part, there were no these concrete stones. And actually, that's where the person used. So there's the Karstadt side, and that Karstadt, in between Karstadt and that side where they do the Christmas market, there are tram paths. Yeah. So he drove over the tram way, the tram tracks, and then went straight because at that end there were no concrete blocks there.
But they were
No,
metal rams, right?
no,
Some.
no, no. But the metal rams they're talking about is because of the tram pathway. There was nothing blocking there.
Really?
Yes. So that's what has many people have also asked that,
Mm,
why is it that only this exit here? Because the trams passes there, perhaps the understanding is that it's not made for cars to drive through
mm,
that place anyway.
mm,
So it's not for cars to come there. So they block where they think cars can come through. But of course, a tram track is in cities. Cars also drive on that. Yeah, so that's what happened. I'm not a security expert, so I cannot really speak to what security is needed. But of course, that was a question that everybody was asking, and I think it's something that the security people themselves are asking about that. My intuition would be that perhaps as a place like this, you need to also have exits because fire service people might want to come
yeah.
in, maybe ambulance, so they had to leave a path open. But even so, I would have imagined that there should be a police truck or police car blocking that exit for any car that tries to enter into. But perhaps that was not there, or maybe the police were changing shifts, or no one can really understand. I think this is something that the security experts will have to rethink into some of this.
Mm,
Uh, um, Irrespective of that, I mean, some of these things happen to put fear in people to enjoy their life,
mhm, mhm.
the what is important in life. People finding space to talk to each other, others going to eat crepes, children going to ride merry-go-round, and seeing the lively environment. I mean, we're in Germany. It's not that 365 days we see and enjoy these kind of things. And I don't think that whether security or not, anybody has the right to take that from the people.
Mm,
It is nobody has that right to put fear in people to such a extent. Nobody has the right to make people don't want to go into such spaces. Mind you, these are spaces that are also economic spaces. People engage in economic activities. On the other hand, think about how much effort people put into setting up their small businesses there, and how much they have invested in those periods to sell their services and activities there. What should they do? It all contributes to the economy that we are living in. So the security aspect, I think, like Robinson said, I think they will take it to the drawing board and rethink about it. But I also can imagine that there was some sleeping on the job at some point,
mhm.
because, well, it happens in Berlin, where the capital is, where that's where it's most famous to do those kind of things. Maybe Magdeburg, some action hasn't happened there, whatever they think or whatever it might be. So maybe it's a very calm, nobody anticipated. So it could be that it took them by surprise and everything. But it's not as if nothing was done at all. Again, we don't really know the much security effort that was put in place for
Mm,
this event.
mm,
But the little that I saw, I can't understand why that place was not guarded.
mm,
That point where car can drive in. I mean, the trams are not as tram road or tram tracks are not something that can stop any car moving at force to stop coming in there. I can't understand. But again, the point is security going forward, I think they would revamp up. But I don't think that irrespective of it, this event should people should put that fear in people to end these kind of activities.
okay, thank you. As you guys were talking, I was just like reflecting. So, as a theologian, I am reminded of. So, when we talk about the security, I'm reminded of famous text that both of you also know. So, Dr. Quickly, you're an elder. Pastor Robinson, you know this text. Psalm 127, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it.
Yeah,
Unless the Lord guards the city,
yeah,
the watchman stays awake in vain. And it's the fact that it's not the police that guards us. These are not the people who secure our lives. Our lives are secured in God. But it's still also problematic to say such things, And as a theologian and someone who has immigrants in my church or people who would necessarily go to this type of places, my heart goes to those persons who are injured, because I'm not like saying, okay, the question would be like, okay, did it was it is it not God that was guarding those people? Wasn't God guarding those people? Did God guard Dr. Kweku, his family, to be there 1 week before? Those are the questions that would come out. So if someone reads this text for you, and please, we establish the fact that no matter what human beings do, right? Our security belongs to God. It doesn't mean that human beings are not supposed to do what they need to do. But if someone comes out like, well, some people were not injured, some people were injured, maybe it's God's will, those type of things that come out, right? What would be your response? Because I want to quickly just talk about this and then we'll go to the kind of consequence of this whole thing for immigrants. But in this, God secures, not man secures, God's will and theodicy, all of this. How would you respond to this, especially for both of you who are closer to Magdeburg?
It is a complex question that needs theological background in what you really mean. Because when you talk about God protecting his people, yeah, it is true. He protects his people. But also the Bible promises that it will not always be well. Suffering is part of this life.
Yeah.
If God was protecting, then I think even Christ would have been protected not to go to the cross. There are so many things that would have been avoided. And if you read the book of Revelation, it's promising terrible times ahead of us. It's not all bliss. And I think that is why people don't avoid reading Revelation and the book of prophecy, the books, because in as much as it is embedded with good news, but it is a clear warning of how the world will look before the second coming. I believe that this world right now, it looks from every corner that things are not going in the right direction. Um, and it reminds us that suffering will continue, it will get worse. The other day we had Corona. It was not also a nice time. And now this one is also an example of when evil dominates and
Mm,
the extent it can go, kill as many people as possible. It's not an isolated case, it is something that is happening through the world. But there is a promise of coming kingdom where there will be no pain, there'll be no suffering, there'll be no what we're experiencing now, there'll be no total fear in our hearts. And I think God wants us also to experience it for those who believe in Him even now.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not something we anticipate only in the future, but it's something that we can experience right now in the face of total fear. You talk to anyone who is not a believer, they are terrified. They don't know where to get their comfort. They don't get their comfort from the politicians. The security, they would look at it and say it's lapsing. They
Mm,
don't find they don't find they don't feel any more secure. That's why it pushes them to fear. But in the Bible, you find promises where God says many times, not one time, fear not. Yeah, it should it should give us the courage that even if things are so bad. Some of these words you are reading in the Old Testament, they were given when things were terrible for the children of Israel. It was not in the good time.
yes.
It was given when things were hard, things were tough. But the word of the Lord through the prophets were, "Fear not, fear not." Yeah, God is still with you. In as much as you go through all this, God is still with you, and I think it's an experience for us to start living out our Christian experience, not of timidity and fear, but to show them that, yeah, in as much as the world is upside down, there is hope. There
Mm,
is hope. There
mm.
is hope, and I think we are Christians. We should be in the front line to manifest that hope that is in us of the second coming. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to talk about that hope aspect a bit more, but Dr. Kweku, um, please go ahead.
When things like this happen, I think the mistake to ever do is to imagine that it happened to some people and that something that they did, that's why it happened to them.
Mm,
That will be a very wrong perspective to start with. As to why it happened to A or and not B, I believe it's still in the hands of God. We live in a world that the will that God has given to us, we all choose to use it for different reasons and for different things. As much as you and I would want to give our will to be directed by God, not everybody might want to do the same. And again, as much as we may think that we are very stable in certain spaces, we are not independent. That means that the decisions of others might have consequences on us.
Yeah.
Let's take driving on the road, for example. You might be in your lane very well, doing nothing wrong, but somebody's fault can cause you a lot of harm,
That's true.
which is not as a result of anything that you did. And so when these things happen, yes, I think as human beings, it's in our nature to already find the ultimate powers beyond us to put the blame to and all that. And therefore we would the only punching bag that becomes easy is God. God has become easy to punch into, and but I think sometimes it's also therapeutical to just put all the blame on Him because He says we should come and I think that I find those questions very relevant. Yeah, and why did it happen, and why this and that? And as to the text that you gave, yes, I think even God Himself understands why He lets that happen.
Mm.
Because I still believe that He can intervene in situations, and He can do things and change things. If it is something that has to be done for Him to be glorified, for something else that is beyond our understanding to grasp, it will happen. We may not have the answers and not have the clarity for it now, but that is why Christians, then our faith and the hope becomes much more important in these times.
Mm.
Know that irrespective of how it goes, we know where we have the faith, we believe, and we have the hope that God knows what He's doing. We
Mm.
believe in that He knows what He's doing.
Mm.
So, of course, this is not to sound also insensitive to people who are going through this, because sometimes those going through the loss right now, I mean, the best thing is just to be quiet,
Yeah.
is to not even reflect on what the Bible say at this moment. Is just to be quiet and just pray in our hearts for them. In whichever way they will mourn their dead and everything, we have to support them with prayers and so much of that. Because look, even when we go to bed and we don't wake up, as human beings, we don't take it easy on
Mm.
God as well.
Mm.
So just imagine the terrible things going on around us and all that people are going through worse and worse situation. And these questions always keep coming up. It is easy when it is not you who is affected
Yeah.
say anything. I mean, you guys know what some of us, our personal challenges as well. When some of those things, the difficulties come in your life, for some, it is not even about just death. Sometimes it's about what they are experiencing every day. And
Mm.
this same question become relevant. And I believe that God says He doesn't give us what we cannot carry. It doesn't give us more than what we can deal with. So I think that He knows what He's doing. It's all according to His will and according to what has to be and what doesn't have to be.
Mm.
And it's nothing that we ourselves, our righteousness or whatever does anything. I believe that the Lord understands, and that's why for those who have lost relatives in this accident or this terror attack, those who believe, I pray with them that they continue to believe and stay strong in the Lord. For those who don't believe, God should reach out and give them some solid foundation on which to give everything, put all the blame on God therapeutically to go through what they're going through. But it's not easy.
Yeah.
Pastors, it's not easy.
Yeah. It's not easy. They're friends, actually. And while I would like to tease out some of the themes that came out from your responses, I'd like to say if you're watching right now, you're listening to this, and you feel you need some support, you can just reach out to us. Basically, just say, well, I would like to talk to someone, and any of us would be able to come back to you. In your if you can just write something on the comments, and we'll reach out to you personally, because anyways, we are dealing with human beings in our respective work places. So I'm a pastor. Pastor Robinson is there. Dr. Kwaku is also an elder who manages the international churches. So just reach out. And for those of you who, if you know someone or you've lost someone, we're praying for you, basically, and we're going to also be praying for you. We're going to be praying at the end of this discussion. One thing that I wanted to tease out a little bit is, so we've talked about those who have lost now their loved ones, and we've talked about this security thing. But what is in it for the immigrants who are living around, so this person, the said terrorist, is supposed to be an anti-Islamist, supposed, right? And there are just so many things going on. So he gets his asylum 2016. He's working in psychotherapy, the university clinic. He's also kind of claiming, he was interviewed actually by BBC around that 2016. And he's claiming, well, he's trying his best to to help people, to bring people into Germany to seek asylum, and yet he does this. You know, in fact, I read one of his tweets. He says he may die this year. By the way, I don't know if you've read that tweet or something on social media, because he wants to bring justice. So I really can't understand how someone decides to take matters into his hands, right? That's maybe it's not something we can talk about right now. But what is it for immigrants? Because this person was an immigrant, and is an immigrant, and there are now so placards going up in Magdeburg, immigrants should go home, so many things now going on is now against migrants or immigrants who are here in Germany or in Eastern Germany. Dr. Kweku, you yourself, you had an online discussion on this a few days ago. What are the themes that came out from those discussions? Pastor Robinson, what is it? What is the need for us immigrants now around, say, Eastern Germany? And Dr. Quick, you can start. Pastor Robinson, you can start. I'm just anyone can.
Yeah. So you're right. As a somebody who researches on some of these issues in terms of immigrants and their integration and return and migration governance and all these kind of topics. If you look at the existing statistics and data on this particular incident is an outlier. An outlier because when we had this discussion, so the discussion was that I had to put a very short notice online meeting because, like I mentioned before, we have a lot of students who live in Magdeburg area there, and some of with our students on campus here, they go shop in Magdeburg and come back. And when it happened, I started calling a few to know how they are doing and everything. And the mood was very, very not good. Was not good at all. People were scared. So put the meeting together and even inform them to invite friends who are not related to our university in any way, but also foreigners who might want to. And the turn-up was great. Many people showed up from our university, not from our university as well. And it tells you that when these things happen, it's not just necessarily trying to understand the mind or behind what was behind what the person did, but to look at the effects, as you mentioned. So this person, why do I say is an outlier? The one that happened in Berlin 2016 was a different case. The person we saw had just come to Germany for not a long time, had a terrorist connection, was connected to some terror organizations, and had come to the country new.
Mhm.
Usually in scholarly work, some of the explanation given is when people come to a different culture, sometimes because of the cultural shock and everything. They feel that the society they are in, the people are not respecting God and they are not there, so they have to help God to deal with whatever they are seeing. So they tend to hurt others in the process. There are other side about, of course, the real terrorism in itself. Yeah, people connected to, so they use that as a means to champion their cause. And of course, also we've seen that it has been for younger people. Yeah, younger people meaning from 20s to max 30s, yeah, and even some teenagers, teenage times engage in this. Another aspect is usually they are not really highly skilled. So from what compared to what happened in Berlin, but this is a whole different case. This is someone who has come into the country for more than 20 years. He's a highly skilled person, well educated, lived in the society by standards of integration, had well integrated, speaks the language fluently, and all that. Actually, according to the information shared so far about his profile, he's more connected to a particular party, the far right party in Germany, shares the anti-Muslim sentiment. Yeah. So by considering this, it was because you look at Christmas market. How is this anti-Muslim? At the same, it has nothing to do with anyone who doesn't even believe in what the idea of those who commit or the terrorist act that had come in terms of their profile matches nowhere close. Yeah. So why should this happen? And this is why I call it as an outlier, because it makes no sense at this point for what he did. But of course, we cannot now go into his brain to know what he did and all that. But what is the aftermath of this? When we analyze it from the perspective, who gains from this? Who what does it happen, or what happens after this? First, I always like looking at it from the migrant's perspective. You remember when I was making my introductory remark, I said when I heard about this, my first instinct was, oh God, don't let it be a foreigner. Why did I say this? I say this because of the implication that it has on foreigners. Because as rightly as we saw, this has propelled certain parts of the society that are strongly anti-migrants. And now, if they were anti-migrant towards a certain group of people, such as people who are not highly skilled or people who they think are there to drain them and take from them, now they have a case of somebody who is well integrated into the system,
Yep.
somebody who is highly educated.
Yep.
So this is a new dimension to the
Yep.
challenges there.
Yeah.
So if before they were even a bit tolerant to see that, yes, highly educated people are, it has changed the narrative to a different level.
Yeah.
And that is what the implication is.
Mm-hmm.
We saw right within 24 hours, right wing groups beginning to attack migrants, physically attack migrants, spitting on people, using abusive words, physically chasing people here and there, which should not happen in the first place. And you see, it has also led into another aspect, which is the political situation at the moment. And we know that in Germany, election is coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This part of Germany is seeing the popularity of a particular far right. I don't like mentioning names here because sometimes by mentioning some of these names, you give more power and then more to them. So I will far right party
So that makes sense.
that is using these to champion their rhetorics, and it makes you wonder of this person who is more tolerant towards this thinking line of thinking and this political ideology of thinking does this, and it benefits who into these narratives as well. And now who gets to suffer?
Mm-hmm.
Migrants, people who are dedicating their lives, supporting the system, the society, doing their best to stay and support the community. Now they become the target for attacks. And so for me, these are the consequences of it. You know, when these happen, yes, I don't believe that if even the far right party wins power, they can just one day bundle all migrants into a plane and kick them off. No, I don't believe so. And it can't be so. Yeah. But the impact is those who buy into these narratives of this far right thinking and begin to physically, verbally, in other words, attack. Because when you are in an alley on the street, not well lighted, and you meet somebody there, it's not that politician who says those things that will do that directly, something directly to you. It is those who buy into the narrative and the sayings of these politicians. And that is the thing. When you are at work, the colleagues' behavior towards you start changing, start seeing you as a target, as a criminal, as a murderer. This is the implication. And no migrant has to go through this. But unfortunately, when these things happen, the easiest targets always tend to be migrants.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to, to just mention something that all kind of tease out something you said is the fact that people who are in the government, in fact, the government is a mirror of the society, right? And you're right. It's not the government officials that will go to attack those people. It is those in the society that would really now turn. And this is the implication. Of course, now we all, well, without bringing class here, but we have done our education here, and so we are working. Um, it just shows that no one is even safe anymore. By the way, with the narrative that is coming up, except it changes quickly, right? But Pastor Robinson, you wanted to add to this, if I understand.
I think from the discussion from the researcher, we had previously talked with Kweku and we had shared the same sentiments. This question of the whole concept of migration here in Germany is becoming a big topic, and it's going to influence the political discourse in the also as it tends towards the election. We find ourselves in the same boat that we really need to rethink because it's something that affects us directly or indirectly. When you find placards talking about migrants go home, it is something that speaks to you. You just face it. I looked at the demos, and they talked about remigration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
remigration.
and
Yes.
Terrible, terrible. Yeah.
some of the sentiments are you go back home. They don't know our story, so they lump us together in one pot. And regardless of who you are, they say you have to go home. But that has to really call for resilience on how we approach going forward, not to demotivate us in the kind of life that God has given us. Of course, to be aware of the discourse, and it is good that such a forum when we can openly share and share tips on how to go about it, because there are people who face this and they don't know where to go to. They are fed from the media, they get it from the streets, but they don't. You know how migrants are. As Kweku, you're talking about, there are people who in Magdeburg, they are all alone. Some of them, they are just isolated. And once you are isolated, you become paranoid because when you hear all this noise all over, you tend to become coiled in your own corner. You really don't have that support system. So I think these are steps that we should encourage people to talk about it. Let us encourage such podcasts. The research that Dr. Kweku you're doing, I think it shouldn't be one-off thing. It should be recurring as a follow-up to find out how is it, how are they coping, and so that we may develop in our conversation, we start developing strategies on how to help each other. Yeah.
Mm.
I think that is the way that I would look at it as we face the future. That is, of course, as believers, we believe that still God is in control. He will give us the best ideas, the best visions to share among ourselves and to our community.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, it's very it strikes me what you mentioned, and which is very very true. I always say that as a migrant, the first point of dealing with some of these is to accept that you're a migrant,
Mm-hmm.
accept that you're a foreigner. You have, irrespective of how long you live in a society and you understand the dynamics of the society, Never. Because sometimes we have the tendency, especially the educated ones who are not, who came to the country with the right documents, and that when we hear some of these things, we look down on refugees. When we hear even refugees going through challenges, we don't even think to sympathize with them. And I've seen this a lot in our studies as well. When some migrants feel like they are better than others by class, by education, by whichever means. Look, when these things happen, when you are walking on the street, nobody sees that you've lived. It's not written on your forehead that
No.
you've lived here this number.
Yeah.
You are well integrated. You have this. You have that. A, B, C, D, and all. No, what they see is they lump people together, and when they do that, then the risk for every migrant goes high. But the first step is understanding this, and there's no shame in this. I mean, when we are doing our tidbits to encourage other migrants to build up, the first point is like, don't be ashamed of who you are. You are a migrant, you are contributing to the society, you are important for the society. Your job is very important. And this is also what sometimes personally I feel we don't see much from the discourses within the nation, even discourses that are tend to be anti-far right discourses just end up labeling anti-far right groups like, oh, don't listen to them, these are fascist people, these are that, these are this, these are, just throwing labels at them without really countering the narratives that they share around. The
Mm.
narratives is what is making people on the train act that way. So if they put out a narrative about migrants, which is not true, somebody needs to tell them that this narrative is not true. The migrants are the people holding up your hospitals. The migrants are the people in the senior homes taking care of your parents. The migrants are the people leading the logistics here and there. The migrants are the people pastoring your spaces, your churches. The migrants are people teaching your children. The migrants are people taking care of these sectors and many other things that we can see migrants role playing in there. And when this is not used as a way to counter this seemingly idea that migrants are just here together. So I guess maybe when we come to sharing more tips, we can throw in some of the tips so to help our brothers and sisters on what to do when they face some of these anti-migrant rhetorics as a result of what had happened.
And
You.
just a point,
Yeah, yeah.
Chidimwe,
Please,
before
please.
you carry on. I think there's an important point as I was reflecting on this issue with my wife that came up. Some of us, as Kweku has elaborately put it, we would look at it that yeah, we have found a second home here. We feel integrated. We feel more at home. But the question is, it comes to our children. What will they face in school? Because some of this rhetoric don't end up on the street. It also ends up in classes where our children are. They listen to what their parents are saying. My son recently told me one of the boys tried to come in that direction. So I have to work hard as a parent to assure him that you are special, not that you are not needed here. You are at the right place at the right time, because he will start feeling like with this sentiment that you have to go home. So he will start feeling he doesn't belong here. My parents don't belong here. This is not our place. We need to, the mind will be elsewhere. So it's also this generation that we have, our young children, how we are to help them cope up with this scenario.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I really appreciate you both sharing on this. Talking about tips, and I think that is where we can perhaps call it a day for now, because this discussion is kind of a very long one, and I think we need to have a second part on. But talking about tips, this is not the first time migrants have had this anti-migrant wave. It's not the first time. It's not even the second time. Do you remember during Ebola time, Dr. Kwaku? Yeah,
Yes,
brought
very
up,
well.
how, okay, that then it was not kind of migrants go back home or re-migrate. It was more of belittling us, or we're a source of um,
Disease.
disease, especially in Eastern Germany, and people would kind of
Mm-hmm.
see a black person passing and shout Ebola or so, you know. And I think that one tip is, of course, we need to protect ourselves. There's no need of fighting any person, by the way. That does not even solve anything. But speaking out, not necessarily in a violent way, speaking out in a way that you can communicate through. That is something that I think helped during the Ebola times, and this is also something that is going to help at this time. We need to speak out, and I this is one of the reasons why now I'm like, I think we need a part two of this, right? Of this discussion. We need to speak out and say, well, this is not who we are. And Dr. Kweku, you you know, you made a profound statement. You talked about the fact that, in fact, I dare to say that when the rubber hits the road, if ever, all migrants are put in a ship or in a plane back, the German society and economy will collapse. I dare to say that, you know, because you're right. It is the migrants, the immigrants who are teaching, who are pastoring, who are cleaning, who are doing the jobs. The tech of the economy, the tech is held mostly by migrants. And we should also be able to try to communicate in such a way that, well, not, in Nigeria, they usually say Nigerians are the worst people. Every Nigerian is a Yahoo person. That's what they usually say. But we would always say, well, not every Nigerian is a Yahoo person, right?
Mhm.
If we're able to really counter the narrative with the way we behave, by the way, because in reality, Dr. Kweku, there are many people who don't behave well as migrants. Let us just face the fact. Well, what I mean is like just behaving anyhow, who may even cause more, putting salt, to the injury that's already there. So aside from speaking out, there's also behaving responsibly. And I'm not going to say this because I'm a pastor. Of course, I'll say this because I'm a pastor, but not because I'm a pastor, but because it just makes sense to behave responsibly in order to maintain a good narrative, not just for me, but for the next person who's going to come in 2 years, or the next migrant who a German is going to meet on the road. Because usually, what people do is that they take one migrant and they overgeneralize and say, all of you from this place are like this. But you just met one person from that country. So from my side, I think that is a tip that those are two tips, speaking out, and we also behaving responsibly when we're in the public, and not just to block roads for other people or to put salt into injury that is, or put more fuel into the fire, but to be able to counter the narratives. Any other one or two tips from both of you before we come to a close for now? Pastor Robinson and then Pastor Quick.
I think, as you said, those are the strategies that we can work with. Such a forum, what you are doing and what the research is that is going on here in Friedensau, it's one of the steps in the right direction to make that awareness. And I think it should also be encouraged that those who have made it in the society here, like some of you, it wouldn't hurt if you join some of these parties and voice out and know their policies.
Mm,
Sometimes we don't know what they stand for. I am eligible to vote, but I barely know what every party stands for. So it's as if we have isolated ourselves, let them take care of their decisions, whatever they decide, as we are just their pawn. So it is, and then also we can, for those who can, uh, they can also actively get involved in to know more, so that they may also help those who are here, like students, to be aware of the direction of how policies are taking place. Because one thing here in Germany I found out is that nobody will come and wake you up from your sleep.
mm,
If you have no info, then
mm.
nobody will wake you up with information.
Uh,
They, People will look at you sleeping, and before you know it, the world has overtaken you in
yeah.
terms of policies. Things change, even in the Sonderbehörde. You go there, you find there are new rules nobody has shared with you, because nobody tells you. It's maybe mentioned somewhere, but it passes you. So that awareness is very important, to have some of us who can really actively help those who are here also, that they may need this information. And as you say, acting responsively. It's sad that one mango spoils a basket. Yeah.
Mm.
One simple example can mess up for the good deeds that others are doing. They wouldn't see the good deeds, they will look at the bad mango that is rotting. So it's sad, but that is human psychology. That's how they operate. But we can also, in our little corners, change the narrative. Um, I have where I'm living, we have neighbors who know us. We integrate, we talk to them. I think we should not shy away from engaging in the population. We continue shining in our little corners because through that they can see another different perspective. There are some who have no contact with migrants. They live in their spaces. The migrants never get into their spaces. They only know them from afar. They live maybe in the gemeinsam Unterkunft where the refugees are staying, and that is the only contact they have. It's negative and negative. That's what they know about migrants. But when we live in society where the locals are, we integrate in their things they do, then they tend to understand a little bit more about migration. As an example, I wouldn't want to give an example that somebody can find out. It happened to us. You know, when somebody you know that he passes racist comments, and you know that is what it meant, and then you confront it. I confronted it, and we made steps. And that person right now we are good friends. You know, I think the perception changed. Maybe they don't have more contact with migrants. So from integrating with me, the perception of this individual really changed. And I can call him, we are very good buddies. Whenever I need something, I go to him, he helps me. So I think this contact with also the locals, some of them, they really don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that we can also encourage wherever we are.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think before you go, as a consultant, migrant advisor, and I like to put my tips in easy to remember ways. So I have triple A, 2B, STP approach. Yeah. So the triple A's, there are three A's, and then there are two B's, and then one S, one T, one P. And here they are. Um, First, like I mentioned, accept your status as a migrant.
Mm.
There is no need trying to be more than German than Germans themselves. Yeah, you're a foreigner, even if you hold the German pass, and still recognize yourself that you're a foreigner, and therefore that should guide you as well, and be responsive and have feeling for other migrants as well, other foreigners as well. Yeah. See, and also know that as a foreigner, you are in the country for a good purpose and you are not against where you are. Nobody's really looking for you and with bad intentions to really destroy you. Accept that. So that's the first one. Accept your status. Accept what your status. Accept who you are. That's the first one. Second, avoid certain spaces. No, it comes from being a voice setting. And I'm speaking to people who are around Magdeburg and places where these things are hot now. Avoid certain spaces. If you don't have to go out there to work in that area where a certain group of people are protesting and everything, avoid there. Perhaps for the few days to come, let everything cool down. Avoid certain spaces. Avoid spaces where you are all alone without any backup. You are in a space where you feel vulnerable. Avoid them. Second, activate your phones. You have Wi-Fi in your house, but your Wi-Fi doesn't follow you when you're going outside your homes.
Mm.
Take your phone, make sure you have credit to call someone if you are in trouble. Take your phone, make sure that you have credit on it to call, make sure you have internet on it. Activate your phone. If somebody is passing on bad comments, trying to be physical with you, pick up your phone and start recording that person. And when they see that, they will back off because they know that the law will deal with them if they are caught on phone behaving like that towards you. So keep your phone close by. Second, and then the two B's come. The first B says that be responsible, and that's what I think you guys have also mentioned. Be responsible. People think that when we migrate, that's it, and we do anything. the courtesy that we know back home, we throw it away or we become, and therefore we don't even act responsibly. We have to react responsibly. The second B is be informed. Be informed. You are in a society. You should know what is happening here. Be interested in the society you live in. You cannot be from a country and come back here and still be doing everything, watching only the news from your country, listening to only things back home. Be interested in things around. Take around. Look at your environment. Make friends with neighbors. Be informed about what is happening in your community as well. Then we come to the S. S says, speak up, as it has already been mentioned. I will not iterate on that. And then the next point is T. Take documents with you. Take documents with you to identify yourself. Take your document. If anything, if you have to call the police, if you are, they will come and ask you for your document, and then you can show your document. Take them with you. And then the last P is participate. Be part of the society. When there's an event going on, volunteer, help out, participate. You are not there for people to only serve you. And then you come and say, oh, I'm not having this. Participate. Like Pastor Robinson just mentioned, you will not sit down and people come and wake you up and say, you have to participate and get involved. So these are very simple, straight to the core points that I can leave with listeners to take along, especially for those of us dealing with this directly. I think these we can be able to avoid too much fallout from what had happened. But of course, we can't do all these things without God being on our side as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for those tips. And the last question I had, which we may not even be able to really tease out. Like I said, dear friends, there will be a second part definitely to this because I think we want to also talk about some of our experiences as migrants or immigrants who have spent a couple of years here in Germany. But that question, the last question I had is, where's God in all of this? So we've talked about it a bit. God is still there when we are hurting. God is there when we go through all these things. And so for you who may be listening or watching, if you've lost a loved one, if a loved one is injured, or a friend is injured, God is still there. That's why his name is Emmanuel. Whether you believe, you don't believe, I understand if you don't believe, that's not an issue. But many those of you who believe, God is still there for us. Like Pastor Robinson said in the past, God does not promise generally that when we belong to him, nothing will happen to us. Also, the fact that Dr. Kweku said, don't forget God in all of this. So that's the last tip. So where's God in all of this? Don't forget your creator. The Bible says, remember your creator in the days of your youth. Many immigrants come and basically forget God, become very secularized here in Germany and think they can do whatever they are doing, forgetting that it was that same God that brought them here. That's we can talk and tease out in the next episode or in the next part of this discussion. But for now, thank you so much, Dr. Kweku, for coming in a short notice and talking about this. Thank you, Pastor Robinson. I've enjoyed the conversation with you both, and I'm so grateful that we could have the time to talk about this. I'm so really, really grateful. Very, very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you too for the invite.
It was nice being here.
Thank you. Dear friends, we've come to the end of our podcast and our episode today. Before we go, I would like to offer a word of prayer, especially for those who were injured or who have lost loved ones or who know someone who is in a predicament at this time. I'd like to pray right now. Let us pray, gentlemen. Our Father, we thank you and we glorify your name for the opportunity to have gone through this discussion. It's not an easy one, it's a complex one. So many themes and topics. But at the moment, our hearts go out to those who have lost loved ones, friends who are injured, and especially the rising terror on the anti migrants, teams that are, resurrecting at the moment. Lord, we want to pray that for all those who are facing a dark time at this point, bring back the light in their lives, console them. For those who are injured, who are maybe in the ICU or broken legs and hands and still going through some bleeding, Lord, I pray you in your infinite mercy that you heal them and show them that you are the balm of Gilead. For those who are living in fear, Lord, you said we should not be afraid of anything, no matter what betides us. You say we should not fear, but we should have a spirit of a sound mind. And so, Lord, thank you because you're with us through and through, in good times, in bad times, in the high, in the low. May you bless everyone, bless this conversation, and use it to bless someone. In Jesus' name, amen.